Okay, we live?
It just kicked over 4:30 and you're live.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, I'll call the meeting to order. This is the Planning Committee for the Common Council. It's February 22nd. We'll do a quick roll. Common Councilman Risberger, I'm here. Councilmember Davies,
Here.
Councilmember Carson. Can't hear you, Len.
Here.
There you go. Councilmember Drenick.
Yep.
Okay. All right, did everybody have a chance to look at the minutes from the last meeting? Any questions, concerns? Okay. We have an issue. We have 3 different topics here. The first one, the Housing Commission, that we were throwing together. I realized as I was prepping for the meeting that I had never heard back from Dave Merzig. So I was in the process of going through all my emails, and somehow I think there was a disconnect because he's not in his office right now. He's clearly not at our meeting, and I never received a motion from him that he was supposed to develop. So I think there was a disconnect from the email that he was discussing everything with us, and I replied to that with what I had taken Mark Davies' statement and then expanded on it to make it look very similar to other statements in the code about other boards and commissions. And he was supposed to take that and turn it into a motion. And I looked, and even though I did a reply all, instead of going to his city email, it just says Dave Merzig Internet. And if you click on that, it's his Yahoo email. So I don't know what happened. So I'm willing to bet he hasn't even seen it.
Hmm.
So I apologize for not following up earlier on that. But we also haven't had a housing commission before now for a decade. So I think waiting another month, as sucky as it is, it's not going to be the end all of the city. So I'm going to resend that as soon as we're done to him. And hopefully we'll have that ready. I don't know that there's a way to have it ready for the next council meeting at all. Because it's got to be, we can't vote on a statement. We have to vote on a motion. So, but did you guys all see what I had changed? Did you had a chance to see it? Do you want me to bring it up again?
No, I read it. I thought it looked good, Dave.
Okay. All
You
right.
haven't changed anything in the last couple of days, though, right?
No, not at all. I had to tweak a couple sentences in Mark's opening like I think it was the opening sentence of Mark's statement, and then there was something at the very end of it I had to tweak to make it fit what had been done in the past with other boards and commissions that were in the code. But other than that, everything else was really copied. The form was, the template was copied from what else has been done. So I'll take that. I'll forward that to Dave Merzig, and we'll get it on the agenda unless anybody wants a special meeting just for that. But I mean, I'm okay with doing that if everybody else wants to do it. Otherwise, we can wait till the end of next month.
Mark, are you okay with waiting?
What do you guys think?
I guess I'm okay waiting. I always like to feel like I get things done and check a box personally, but I also recognize that we are all busy people and there's lots of meetings, so I don't mind waiting. But if there would be a way to expedite it, yeah, I'd be in favor of that.
Well, what I could do is tell Dave Merzig that we'd like it expedited. And as soon as I get it back, I can talk to you guys, and we can see if we can call a special meeting if it's worth it at that point. It really depends on how quick he can get it back to me, because we have to give public notice of the meeting ahead of time. I just don't remember how much time we need to be able to give. So, but as soon as I get that back from him, I'll talk to you guys. I'll include Gary in on it and see if it's worth calling an earlier meeting or not. So if it's a matter of like making a difference of a week, then yeah. If it's going to make like a day difference, then we'll see.
And Dave, that's just one opinion.
No, but
No, I
I,
agree, Mark.
I'm with
more
you
than
too.
willing. Yeah.
I'm with
No,
you.
I'm more than willing to do that. And
Yeah.
I think it's 72 hours we have to give notice to the public.
but then we have to time it with, I guess what I meant was the timing between when we would have the meeting to when this meeting would be, if it's really worth it. I would think, looking at what I wrote up, and since it looks like everything else, I don't know that it's going to be a big deal to turn that into a motion. So I'm hopeful that it'll be a quick thing that he can turn over and get back to me.
Yeah.
So,
I think so.
okay. All right. So moving on then. It's really what I put back on was exactly what we were discussing before. And let me grab actually, let me bring up my meeting minutes. Hold on, give me just a second here, because we can talk about the trails on Upper East Street. There we go. Trails on Upper East Street. Where we left it before was Dave Merzig was going to be finding out what's needed to establish the trail system on the city-owned property, and Greg was going to talk with him and discuss and report back. And then also Greg was going to contact SUNY to see whether we can even we could potentially tie that into their trail system, which might save us a lot of issues with parking and so on and so on. So Greg, are you here? I see that
Yep,
you're.
I'm here.
All right. Do you have any news to report on this?
Yeah, I spoke to Dave Merzig. It can be done, certainly, like it has been on city property in the case of Wilbur Park, for example, where there's some trails established with kind of trail markers. So that's not really a concern. I did speak to Lachlan Square at SUNY Oneonta, and he's going to get back to me with a time to set up a meeting with some other folks at SUNY, talk about insurance concerns they may have to see what impacts it might have on their insurance for the college camp trails.
Okay.
I think right now those are intended to be accessible only to SUNY students, faculty, and staff. Not intended for the general public. Obviously, I'm sure people go up there anyway, but as far as insurance is concerned, that's something they need to look at. So hopefully I'll have more to report next time and more of a next steps, but that's where we're at still.
Okay. So we don't have a date yet on the get together to discuss that just yet.
No.
Right. Okay. What did Dave Merzig say about what we need to do to have that done? Is there anything for us to do at this point?
We didn't get into specifics. So I think that's coming back to the next meeting. I'll have more of a specific timeline. He just kind of said, yes, it's possible. We'll do it the same way we've done it in the past with other trails. So
Okay.
He was, with
go
respect to SUNY, he was just concerned that, or his only stipulation, I guess, would be there would be some sort of more MOU or something to that effect if we were going to have the Trails Connect.
Yeah, absolutely. Anybody else here? You guys have Len, Marks, any questions for Greg on this?
So what we're figuring, Greg, is that if we're able to pull together an MOU with SUNY, then the parking would take place at the camp, and then that would take them off of East Street.
We didn't get that far as talking about parking at all. If it were something that we were looking at a parking, I know we mentioned that last time, as if it became popular enough to warrant a separate parking area. I'm not sure that that'd be something we can discuss with SUNY. If they're willing to have the Trails Connect, then we can take that and have it.
I know that they've got some pretty decent, they've got several areas of parking up there. And the first one, it's been a while since I've been up to the camp, but the first one up on the left that more connects with the trails itself rather than getting into the college camp, proper, has quite a bit of room. You probably could get a dozen vehicles in there fairly easily. I don't know who knows how popular this would be, but I think you're only looking at, the need for a couple cars at a time or a few cars at a time. It's mainly people on East Street tend to, love the ride. And you know what I mean? I don't mean bicyclists. I mean the automotive use of East Street. It becomes, comes something where, it's hairpin turns and, it's going downhill and ain't this fun.
Yeah.
So,
And I obviously we haven't seen, I haven't seen any sort of a map of a layout of the trails yet. I don't think we're to that point, so we'd have to look at that and see where it makes sense. We probably wouldn't want to have a trail come right down to East Street and encourage.
right. Yeah, that's kind of where I'm
It's
at
the road.
with this. Yeah.
So, yeah, that's something that in the conversation with SUNY, if it looks like it's going the direction that we'll work together, we can work together, then I'll ask.
Yeah.
Your thoughts.
I'm assuming that, let's say, if SUNY agrees to this and this is a go, we get the green light. It would be more of the community bikers group that would be designing the trail. Is that the thought here?
I think so. Mark, do you have thoughts on that?
Yeah, that was always my thinking, that there's, excuse me, there's quite a bit of, there's a listserv, and a lot of times folks will put out an announcement about a particular, doing some trail work on a particular area, and volunteers will show up and begin the trail work. And so I think some of the folks that are kind of active in that, we could always begin to work with them to come up with a trail building day, at least begin to map out the trail or figure the trail out, what would be the best place for it, map it, flag it, and then begin to do the work behind it that you need to do to have a good solid trail that's going to, not create a lot of drainage issues and things like this. So it can certainly be done through the active folks in this area.
Okay. All right. Do you have any other questions here for Greg on that topic? Len?
Sorry about that. Guess I'm having computer issues tonight. But we will lean towards having any egress or points of contact with the trail is going to be on is that Camp Road? I don't know the name of the road. Ultimately, the decisions making today, but we're always going to have those access points on the Camp Road.
As opposed to
Right.
East Street, you mean?
Yeah, I mean, we're never going to have a parking area or something off of East Street, right?
I don't know that we ever discussed that necessarily. I think I was assuming it might be off of East Street, but
That was my assumption as well.
I'm not sold on that or Camp Road. I figure whichever way works and is the safest.
Yeah.
Just like everybody else thinks probably. Greg, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think certainly you don't want, there's not room for cars to be parking along East Street. Creating
Yeah,
a
I wouldn't want to
driveway access
encourage
and
that. I see what happens up in the Adirondacks, and that's become a real big issue up there. So, yeah, whatever we could do to mitigate, prevent that, I think is a good idea, if at all
Yeah.
possible. Anyway.
yeah, obviously we'd have to work with, Hoffman Road. That's, I think a section of that is a town road, and then the next section is a private SUNY section of road. So we'll have someone to work with either way, whether town and or SUNY too.
We would have the ability to create an inset though at a trailhead, for a couple, 3 cars though, would we not? Off of East Street if it came to that, rather than having them parking along the side?
Possibly, yeah. We'd have to work with the town. Again, we're essentially a private property owner in the town of Oneonta at that point, so go through their process.
Any other questions for Greg? Okay. Well, Greg, thanks for the work you've been doing, and good luck. I look forward to hearing what SUNY has to say about this. And hopefully we can get some other good news about this at the next meeting. Moving on to the BMX pump track. Anything to report on that? I think where we left with that one, give me a second here. Cost analysis and size needed to build. That was going to be Mark Davies. Fitting it in with a Parks master plan and present to Parks and Rec. I don't know if we're quite there yet because I'm assuming Parks and Rec hasn't discussed it yet, but what do we have, guys? Do we have anything to report on that?
Yeah, I have something to report. So Greg and I met several days after our last meeting, and we talked about size. I did some research on kind of size requirements for it. And it's a rather small thing. It's not a big, just a basic pump track is a rather small. So we looked at possible sites that wouldn't conflict with other areas and came up with, it was Greg's idea. Greg came up with a great idea that would be to the south of the parking lot that is the kind of parking lot used for the skate park right now, if you can imagine where that is. There's a softball park or softball diamond right there, but there's actually enough room between the park and between the kind of foul line of the diamond that the size track that I've got in mind, or that seems to be kind of the standard track size, could fit nicely into that particular area. So that was the first thing. What in our discussions with Greg, kind of thinking this through more and talking to different people, I think it's really important to get a group of folks together to really begin to think out the design. From what I understand, kind of doing more research, some pump tracks, if they are not designed well, can really they begin to erode very quickly. They're not user friendly. So really need to get the design right. So I'm trying to get a committee together, and I've been reaching out to different cyclists I know that are interested in this, and then I'll put something on my Facebook page today and to see if anybody was interested in joining in on this. And there's actually a city employee who's very interested in this as well. So between hopefully a group of 4 or 5 people, I think we can begin to create a design that will fit there, and then begin to also cost that. Once we have the design, we can cost it and begin to figure out what it is, and then develop a plan for building it as well as maintaining it. So that's as far as I've gone. In terms of conversations with the Parks Department or the Parks and Rec Committee, I have not yet had that discussion. I have not been invited to their meeting yet, but I think Katie was going to be bringing back to them our interest in having a conversation about it.
Mark, the location of it, you said it's south of the parking lot at the skate park, which I know where that is. Is this between the parking lot and the softball field?
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe I need to look at an aerial.
I can share my screen and show you a
Oh, that'd be great, Greg.
master plan.
Thanks, Greg.
So this is just the NEWA master plan.
Right.
And I just pasted on some squares here, 40 by 60, which is about the size that Mark had said was a typical size for a pump track. Here's just 2 options,
Mhm.
So you could squeeze it in there. Where Mark was originally thinking about putting it was over this area where the dog park is planned to go. Not to get off track, but we had also talked about an option for the dog park over here in Catella Park.
Right.
But we've been DPW's cleared this area out, and we think this is doable, and it's probably a better spot for dog park given its central location, close to bathrooms.
Okay. I didn't know we were back to that.
Yeah, sorry.
No. Don't be sorry. I feel like we've been juggling both options for the last couple of years, so I kind of lost track of where we were on that one. Okay, so the 2 spots right next to the parking lot, that's a good location. So what's the approximate length of that from one end to the other, Greg and Mark?
From here to here, 60 feet by 40 feet.
Okay.
It's not real big. I mean, I guess they could be, but
No,
Mark?
but you're talking about it going the length of the parking lot though, right?
no.
So
Go ahead, Mark.
oftentimes what they are is almost some type of little track that you can basically still think of like a figure 8 almost in some examples, or a triangle, a right angle triangle, so that you're able to start and then kind of keep doing loops on the track and kind of keep pumping your way through it and working on those particular skills. So it's not a start at one point, come out another. It's really stay on the track and kind of keep, moving around and keep working the track over. So it fits really nicely to have it in a smaller contained area. And that's where I think that this is a perfect site for it. frankly, if we would have put it where the dog park is, you'd be, it's a very small footprint. You'd be, wasting the entire area. This seems to be nicely aligned right where it is here in one of these spots.
Okay, so it's one of the two spots. I was assuming those were the two ends of the figure eight.
Right. Sorry, that wasn't clear, but
Okay.
yeah, it's just showing two options. I mean, it could be anywhere along there, really.
Okay. Well,
I
I
think
would
that-
I would defer to you guys which is those is a better area. So, but I think it's great having it near the parking lot. Go ahead, Mark.
Well, I tell you what, for what it's worth, I really like the idea of the one on the far right. Separating the bicyclists out from the skateboarders. I don't know, Mark, what the percentage of folks that fail to navigate the track might be. But if you have a bike go flying, it'd be probably a good thing to keep them away from the skate park and the skaters. I love the fact that it's right next to the parking lot. That's great for the parents. It's great for, the folks to, drop their bikes and, do other things while they're waiting their turns. I think, and it's really such a convenient location. It makes so much sense with the skate park there too. So I'm all for that.
Yeah, I mean, go ahead, Mark.
Well, I was just gonna say, Mark, I agree. I really do like this location in the grand scheme of things quite a bit. I think the access to the parking lot, to the skate park. I mean, parents could have one kid on the track and one kid skating. It's really nicely laid out.
Yeah. And just foul balls for those that are using field 8. The pop-ups that go foul are more likely to, I would think, based on my experience not catching foul balls, be more toward the skate park than toward the that pump track that you're showing on the far right. So I think that's even a safer place relative to foul balls.
Yeah, we talked about that a little bit. If you had to, you could, which would be a lot more an effort, but you could shift this field a little bit this way. But I don't think it'd be necessary if it's over here. You have to have a pretty strong middle school practice hitter, which is all that does anything here really to hit a hard line drive.
Exactly. Yeah. You're more likely to see a foul pop ball into that first quadrant more to the left. So yeah, I really like. I would certainly advocate for that far right triangle rectangle.
Okay.
All right. Do we have any other questions for Greg on this? Okay, so Mark, you're working on establishing that subcommittee and coming up with a design. So yeah, just keep us updated on what you're coming up with if you need a hand with anything at this point. I look forward to hearing what you guys come up with, and hopefully we will have a little bit more to discuss next month about it. It'd be great if we
Thanks.
could go in this year.
Yeah, we'll do. And my plan is to try to have a meeting of folks that are interested in early March and begin kind of building that out. I did buy a book that has some great pump track kind of layouts and gives you all the different slopes. So I think we can use that as a place to be able to start. And then I can double back with Greg and we can begin to look at costing this and how that might work. And then it's really beginning to develop that building and maintenance plan. And perhaps the more emphasis is on the maintenance plan. So how do we do that? So we take the pressure off of, we don't want this to become kind of a city project that every couple of weeks that we have city folks out there maintaining it. That's not the intent, but I think we can get the cycling community actively involved in that as well.
I know having it closer to the skate park would be great for families if they've got one kid that's on the skateboard, another on the bike. Do you feel there's going to be more wear and tear if it's near the skate park versus where Mark was suggesting on the other end of the parking lot? Any thoughts on that? Or is that just something to think about?
Yeah, no, I don't know that. I mean,
I was
I
going
guess I
back
would.
on that.
Sorry, Dave.
I was just going back and forth on that. I wasn't sure if it would make a difference, positive or negative.
Yeah, and I can't come up with anything right now to make an argument for in terms of wear and tear, what would be better. I think what we need to do is just kind of get some layouts get out there and take a look at them in real time in terms of whether they work well at that particular site. Greg laid out a 40 by 60. So does that work in that particular site? And then think that through, get some input, and then start moving on. And yeah, I think the idea is to try to have this built this summertime so we get it in use.
Sounds good.
At least that's what I'd like to do.
I did mention it at the Parks and Rec meeting, whenever that was, a few weeks ago. So they're aware of the idea and seemed, as I recall, supportive of it and had any issues with it. So I told them we'd have more information at some point.
Thanks, Greg.
Okay.
I think Judy's got her hand up.
Oh, hey, Judy.
Hello. I had a question about this, with that pump track. We have the Fix It thing. Greg, what's that thing called that we got with that grant?
Yeah, it is Fix It Station, I think it's
Fix
called.
Station?
It's for a
Yeah.
bike repair station.
Yeah, and we had some bike racks that we put around the city. Would any of them be needed around down in the parking lot near this?
Well, let me ask what's involved in the Fix It station. Is it air and just basic tools?
It's not air. Is it air, Greg? It's not air,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, I think there's an air pump. I
Is it
think
air pump?
I've never used it, but I
But
think
it's a-
basic tools on cords that
Is it a hand pump, Greg?
I believe so. I honestly have never seen it up close.
Yeah, and there's a bunch of tools on cables. You can put your bike up on it
Mhm.
and do minor repairs for your bike. Right now, it's set up at the it's
Rec
set up in
center.
yeah, at the rec center in Neowa. We had put it up by the transit hub on Water Street, and it was decided by the police that that wasn't a great idea because of the college students and the tools on the cables. So we moved it down into Neowa. But if that's something that people would need to make repairs to their bikes, and that's a spot that bikes are going to be, it might make sense to move it there.
Judy, is there any decision time length on that? I mean, I think this is an idea I'd really like to consider. What's the best use? And there's two folks that'd be using it. It's kind of the mountain biker BMXers, which the site you're talking about closer to that particular, to the skate park area would be great, versus folks that might be using on the road or kind of families that are on their bikes, which seems like back at the rec area might be a better place. So I think I'd like to give that some consideration. Is there a timeline that we need to worry about making this decision?
Not at all. It's already set up there. You can go take a look at it. And my thinking is, with it being at the rec center, I don't know how many bikers actually know it's there or use it, because that's not a center for bikers to come to, So it would be great if we could get it someplace where the mountain bikers know where it is, and it's in the path of theirs or something, where they're actually there and don't have to hand carry a broken bike to it,
Right.
But it's just
Well,
a
you're
thought.
right. There could be some benefits to that, and it's certainly close enough to the Catella Park there, where folks will enter into the new island system down that particular area, that just a quick detour to put some air in the tire or tighten something down would work well. I guess it'd just be a matter of now the folks that are on road bikes would have a hard time accessing that site, because that the parking lot and the road down there is a little gravelly. So trying to figure out what would be the perfect place to be able to help both groups if they needed to get air or repair would I think is a central question.
Well, our original thought when we bought it through the grant was eventually it might end up at the transit center, because our thinking is the transit center should be all modes of transportation, and it should be promoted that way, and we should have a water bottle filler there, a place where people can sit and hang out and rest, place where they can park their bikes if they want to go up on Main Street to shop. And the Fix It Center would work well there too. So that's a thought that it might end up there, but if there's a better site for it, we're open to that too.
That makes a lot of sense to me, moving it up there, but it also makes sense to have the station in Neowa Park. What does a station like that actually cost? What did it cost the city with a grant?
I'd have to look back at that. I I can't remember off the top of my head.
I'm wondering if it would be worth looking into getting a second station to have either at the transit hub and move this one to, since it's going to be a while before we have a transit hub, move this one to a place where the mountain bikers can use it. And then when the transit hub is done, put in a new one, or not do anything right now until there's a transit hub. That way it's accessible to everybody.
Yeah, I think, I don't recall the costs either. But it wasn't huge. It's something that we could certainly fit that, probably squeeze that into the transit center project overall as one of the amenities that we provide with that. I would suggest waiting, this summer, if we're able to build the pump track this summer, let's keep it where it is for now, see if we get some feedback from the mountain biking group, if that's something that they think will be really beneficial to be moved, and then maybe move it.
Yeah. I mean, I don't even know if they know it's there.
Yeah.
Mark, did you know it was there?
Nope.
Neither did I. I thought it was still on Water Street.
No, that we had to move it within a matter of like a month or so because Doug Brenner was like, "Do not leave that there." We're like, "Okay," because the college kids hang out down there, and the cable is, it's not super long, but the tools are hard, and the cable's long enough to do some damage if people are dumb enough to stand within a couple feet of somebody swinging a tool on a cable. But I guess when you're loaded down there, you might be. Anyway, we moved that, and I think we left a bike rack still on Water Street, but we moved that tool thing out of there.
And with regards to the bike rack, I couldn't imagine that the bike rack would be really needed down there. It's the type of thing that, people would, just like a basketball, they'd come down to do that and then leave, versus locking their bike up to go shopping or something like that. So I don't think that the bike rack is necessary, but I do think that the fix-it would be real helpful.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't know if people wait for the track, if other people are on it, and so I wasn't sure if you needed a
Yeah.
bench and a bike rack or what you might need down there.
I might
And as
need,
Greg said,
Hanging out.
might need a bench, but I think Mark's right. I don't think we need anything to lock bikes up. But we may change our mind if we start seeing that there's a lot of bikers down there, and then there's bikers down there when we have other events that are going on. So we may revisit this down the road. Who knows? So, okay. Do we have anything else to discuss about the bump track? Does anybody have anything else they want to bring up? Okay. Len, you look like you're in a car. Are you in a car? Or are you at home? Len? Can you hear me?
Got you now.
You look like you're in a car. Or is that a window behind you?
It's a window behind me. I'm actually in my RV.
Okay. All right. Well, drive safe out there.
Okay.
All right. You guys have a good night, and I'll see you tomorrow.